Have you ever felt like you're taking out that energetic trash? I'm Amanda Beth of the Amanda Beth Healing, and I'm joined today with Andy Nam, and we are going to just talk about all the things that are going on and everything. So there's so much energy, that energy, and we had a full moon. We're in a Mercury retrograde. There was a lunar eclipse in the early hours this morning here in the Central Time Zone, and I set my alarm last night, and although it was forecast to sprinkle, I was hopeful. I was really hopeful. And when I got up, and I live in town, and so those clouds and the light, it had things reflecting, and I was so hopeful that that was the moon getting ready to be eclipsed. And no, it was the rain clouds. So, but I was awake. I was going to make the best of my time, and so I put on my jacket. I went out into the rain to double check that I really couldn't see the moon. And it wasn't because it was eclipsed. It was too early for it to be eclipsed. And I drug in my trash bin. And thinking about, what are we going to talk about today? Well, of course we're going to talk about that mundane act of bringing the trash bin back or taking out the trash that we do every week, you know? And so looking at it as these are the cosmic events that happen, and March has lots of them. And we
Mm.
know astrology is not Amanda's forte, but I love listening to it. It's fun. Um, but it's also like all the work that we are doing, all the work that we do, you don't necessarily get to see it. Like I
Mm.
didn't get to see the lunar eclipse, but you get to feel it. And it's that work on the inside that just doesn't always show up. Do you feel like that, Andy?
Oh, all the time, for sure.
Yeah, we've just got there's so much going on, and you're working so hard, and you look in the mirror and it looks like the same person from yesterday. And so don't get discouraged. It's all building. It's like when someone sees you that hasn't seen you for a while, and they're like, "Oh, you've lost weight, you've changed your hair, you've," it's like, "Well, not really. It's because we get so used to looking every day, and like little kids,
Mhm.
they grow so quickly, but when you have them with you every day, you don't see all of their milestones, just like you don't see your own milestones. So just really think of that. And then this retrograde energy. Full moons have always affected me. And full moon energy is it's present for 3 days before, the day of, and 3 days
Mhm.
after. So if you're looking at doing your full moon work, and full moons are great for illuminating the things that we need to get rid of, that you can put in your trash bin and take it out. Where the new moon, which is dark, is where that's time when you launch your new things. So this is a clearing out phase. And if you missed last night's full moon, you still got a couple days of this energy lingering to do that. It definitely full moons affect my sleep pattern, and I realized, gosh, I'm not sleeping so good. And I look at the calendar, it's like, oh yeah, it's because it's a full moon, and it shines in my bathroom window. So, and when you're making extra trips because you're just too awake, and it's like, oh yeah, this is why. To take a look at that. But then we talk about the Mercury retrograde
Mhm.
energy, and I know people talk about it. I think a lot of times it gets blamed. What's your understanding of the whole retrograde energy?
I have no idea. That's something I'm learning from you all. I hear it makes so many differences in how everything happens, and in how animals behave, how we behave. How our thoughts, or sleep, or energy. It's very interesting to me because when someone says, "Oh, it's not Mercury in retrograde," I was like, "What does that have to do with anything?" And now I'm starting to realize it does have to do with a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think that I went through probably, oh, I was in my late 20s before I finally got it, or
Hmm.
before I finally acknowledged it, let's say, into my early 30s. And so my abbreviated definition and explanation of it is, so the planet Mercury
Hmm.
goes around in the solar system, and every 3 months for a period of about 3 weeks, these are all abouts, the planet appears to be spinning backwards.
Oh,
And so
okay.
that's what the retrograde means. It's that appearance of it spinning backwards. And Mercury is touted with being big in the ruler of communication and travel and those things. And it doesn't mean don't communicate. It doesn't mean don't travel. It doesn't mean don't make big decisions. It means be thoughtful. And if this
Mhm.
is a time period where everybody you're talking to, and it just feels like you're speaking a language that they don't know, you're speaking a foreign language to them, they're just kind of staring at you.
Correct.
That's the disruption of that Mercury energy. And what I learned in my late 20s is I had a bracelet that I just loved. It matched my necklace.
Mhm.
We'd gotten it in the Bahamas. I mean, it was a whole experience thing and everything. And it was Jeff's. And after Jeff had passed, I wore this bracelet and it came up missing.
Mhm.
And I looked high and low everywhere. And I had really just given up on it. I figured, I never thought it was stolen. It was just totally missing.
Mhm.
And then I was driving because I didn't have a vehicle when I first moved back. And I was driving a conversion van. You know, those vans that have those big doghouse, the engine compartment kind of divides from the dash.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so they got the really short, snubby noses.
Correct. Correct.
And so
Correct.
the
Correct.
engine
Correct.
is like
Correct. Yeah.
really right
The
there.
transmission's part of that big hump. Yeah. I know
Yeah,
exactly
it's
what
that
you're
big
talking about.
hump is part of it. So I took the van in and it was getting the oil changed. Well, when they took the cover off, now this van I did not do maintenance on. I had no reason to be under the hood. I didn't check the oil or anything. I was just kind of going through life at that point in time. My life was just going through the motions. And lo and behold, when they opened that up, sitting on top of the air cleaner, just sitting there, was
Okay.
my bracelet.
Wow.
And that was probably the first time that I really acknowledged and embodied this whole Mercury retrograde because it was in a retrograde when this got done.
Mhm.
And so for me, that really established the pattern that retrogrades are a time for redoing a lot of things. And, with the magazine coming out this month with Chronic Health Collective, and I'm on the cover again.
Yes.
And you said, hey, you need some new headshots. And so in the process of doing the headshots, and we're really branding out what it is that I do at the live events and everything. And so let's bring it all in together.
Mhm.
We're not just taking out our trash. If you look at our trash as being that stuck energy, those
Mhm.
energy blocks, that if you don't take it out to the curb, once a week, spring cleaning, fall cleaning, whatever schedule maintenance you can do there, you just sit around and you just stink up the environment in your own
Mhm.
vibration. So this is your redoing, your rebranding, your bringing it all home. And if you don't subscribe to deep thinking astrology, like
Mhm.
say I know enough to be um, I'm probably not dangerous because I don't advise people. I just kind of live my own life on the fringe of the things that I see. And so this retrograde energy though, we do see as I'm in more and more circles with astrologers, with the psychics, with the
Mhm.
people that do that, looking at these communication glitches, tech glitches. You said you had a power outage
Yes.
yesterday. Um, so there's the glitches and then there's also the redoing. X's resurfaced during this time. A lot of people look at these as being red flags.
Mhm.
And I don't look at red flags as being danger and
Mhm.
ominous. I look at those as attention getters.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Yeah, so what is it that you need to be doing with this energy to I don't know, to re-examine, to sort through. And we have a full moon every month. Was
Mhm.
it actually every 28 days? So it doesn't fall in the same same cycle, which we could get into that whole calendar debate, but we're not going to today. But it does come up often on these lives. Um, the calendar issue. But look at that. And if you can, if nothing else, if you don't make a regular basis of putting things out, then you really need to work on that and maybe equating it with the full moon that does happen on a regular basis would be a really good thing to do. What do you think, Andy?
That was a lot to take in. I'm just
Oh
trying
no. Oh no. Is that what am I
to.
working?
Oh, I think it was brilliant how you're talking about reframing, because like a lot of people do see red flags and they're worried about their they did something wrong and then they stop dropping down that rabbit hole. But listening into you, so for Mercury in retrograde, it happens what, once every 3 months? You said for 3 weeks, so it's for a period of 3 weeks every 3 months.
About so.
Okay,
Sometimes it's closer to
approximately.
4 months, three
So
to 4 months for 3 weeks ish. People who
so
are really sensitive feel that energy building up and right.
see, even your dogs felt it.
My dogs are feeling it actually, yeah, because apparently there's someone at my door.
So for people during Mercury retrograde, you're talking about reflecting back in for things that are changing. So for people that are like starting new business or changing their health, like, is this a good time to make those decisions, or is it better to make the decision after, when like the new moon happens and everything? I'm just curious. I'm just trying to get into all this.
Yeah, so usually the thinking that I have understood
Hmm.
is that a lot of times we do a lot of planning and we do our research and sometimes it happens when you have that medical appointment, you make that big purchase. If you've been plotting and planning and it happens to be during a retrograde period, that's not quite so much. A retrograde period is not when you want to do anything suddenly. You don't want to impulsively go buy a computer.
Got it.
When you impulsively do that, I mean, because sometimes, but there are some purists who will say, "Oh, Mercury's retrograde. I cannot buy this computer. Will it still be on sale in 3 weeks or not?" Um, so I think for me, and I think that so much of it is kind of like, oh, what is it? Uh, like walking under a ladder. Superstitions.
Hmm.
You are only responsible for the things that you believe and you support.
Correct.
So if you're unaware of a superstition, then the bad luck of opening an umbrella inside doesn't work. But if you knew that
Okay. Okay.
superstition
Mhm.
and you opened an umbrella inside anyway, then
Correct.
you need to take the corrective action and
Correct.
close the umbrella as you walk back out the door backwards, supposedly. Just kind of, it's like if you're responsible for it. So,
Correct.
how much of our lives did we live and not
Mhm.
knowing anything or understanding anything about Mercury retrograde?
So true.
If you look back, you go through your journals or whatever and you find that you're repeating a pattern, if you look at that pattern and you
Mhm.
see that it fell in these retrograde periods, then maybe that's something that during the next retrograde you do your redo. You do your shift,
I
you
like
do
that.
those
Okay.
corrections. And that's how I like to look at it. And
Okay.
that's the responsibility I take during that. But as a theta healer, I also see a lot of people in that retrograde energy feeling very drained because a
Mhm.
lot of my clients are super sensitive people and they're sensitive to that energy. But sometimes that's like the most ideal time to do a reading, especially when you want to break those patterns. And so, if you look at it from an energetic standpoint, if these patterns are popping up during a retrograde to be recognized, to be shifted, then what better time for a reading? You know?
Mm. Correct. Correct. Correct.
Not that, yeah, any time is a good time for a reading when you're looking, what the readings that I do are more about what is your energy and what are your blocks and how do you move forward.
Correct.
Um, so those type of readings I think are really good to do to say, okay, why are you feeling down? Why is this repeating? And
Mhm.
how can you address that energy differently?
That's amazing. I like that idea. Right. Because like when you're talking about the Mercury retrograde, I was just thinking, man, do I need to put that on my calendar now and start basing my decisions around those dates? You
No,
know.
I don't think it is. I think that it's an awareness,
Hmm.
and Andy, you're a planner. You don't jump into things necessarily,
Hmm.
but if your planning comes and something, that you've been planning, you've done the research pre-retrograde, but the time that it comes into fruition is during a retrograde, I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Okay, that's good to know.
But it's that impulsive stuff, those things that we don't
Correct.
think about, that we get really
Mhm.
impulsive. If we jump into, it's just like, oh, that's a pretty orange car. I think I'm going to go buy that today. And you do that, then that's going to be the pretty orange car that goes back to the dealership on a regular basis,
Correct.
especially every 3 to 4 months.
I love
So it's
that.
kind of pattern recognition.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So, how about if we do some theta around that?
Yes, I think that would be amazing.
All right. So, let's remove the obligation to continue to carry the weight of that stagnant old and trash, to have that discernment, to know what is in our highest and best good, and to release the rest of that. Send it away with that energy. And with that discernment, let's look at what are our patterns, what are our repeating blocks. And as we start looking at those, is this a retrograde thing? And if it is, how do we need to acknowledge that? So, having the discernment on recognition, the discernment on patterns, as well as removing that obligation to hold everything, because holding on to all of that garbage and that trash is just really
Mhm.
holding us back.
I love
So, if
that.
you'd like to remove those and to have that discernment, just say yes out loud. If you're catching
Yes.
us on a replay, say yes out loud and put hashtag replay in the comments. We're going to throw in all those forgiveness protocols as well on any and all levels. That feels pretty good. Yeah.
I love that.
So
Nice.
make sure you drink your water and do all of that. Today, I drew the card, the Angel of Serenity. And I came on, we were doing the pre-show stuff here when I remembered to pull her. She is the Angel of Serenity. Serenity is part of my life. I live with serenity each moment that life brings. Serenity brings a natural flow to every circumstance and moment and inspires us to relate and savor everything, knowing that nothing is permanent. Serenity comes from the soul, that steady center that nourishes us and helps us to understand that the good and the bad moments of life do not last and are part of our spiritual growth. So I think that's pretty good, because we talked, clarifying, identifying those paths,
Hmm.
and knowing that nothing's forever. It's all in a season or a phase, or however you need to look at that.
And
So,
I think that's the perfect card for everything that you're talking about, which is just so interesting when you pick the cards each week.
oh yeah, the cards always summarize. I do those at the end of all of the work that I do, when I do it with other people, when I do my own work, and bringing them in here. And sometimes I look at the angel and go, that doesn't mean anything, and then I read it and it's like, oh, it does. It really does. It summarizes so much of it. So yeah. Yeah. So look at those patterns. Look at where it is that you need to change, and come back and visit with me. We will be back live next Tuesday, 11:30 Central Standard Time, and I welcome your comments, and if there's anything that you feel more compelled to know more about. If you talk about, do you take your trash bin out to the street before you pull it up the drive? You just cut across the lawn. What is it? we're just going to have another day in the life of Amanda. Andy, thank you so much for joining me again today. I do appreciate it.
Amazing. Thank you for today, Amanda. It definitely puts a lot of perspective because I was just talking with one of the other coaches, Janine, about Mercury and retrograde. And I'm so glad that you said if there's planning and then something happens on retrograde, then there's no big deal, right? Because I just started my new business March 1st, literally in retrograde. And Janine was telling me, oh, she's starting her business March 21st after the retrograde. And I didn't quite understand how that's linked, but now listening to you makes a lot more sense. But now I feel a lot more comfortable, just like a lot of you viewers out there. If things plan and they happen on the retrograde, don't worry about it, right? Because I was a little bit panicky there until you explained.
But I think that so much of it is the law of expectation.
Hmm.
If you expect that everything's going to turn to trash and rubbish during retrograde, you bet your bippy it's going to.
Correct.
And if you expect that the things that you have invested time and research and you have that knowledge in, it's going to go great,
I
then
love
it's
that.
going to. It's the law of attraction, the law of expectation. And I
Hmm.
think that law of expectation really, yeah, whatever you expect, that's what you're putting out in the universe. If you expect to have a grumpy, icky day, guarantee you are, because you're putting it out there, and every person you come across is going to reflect it right back to you. And if you're like, nope, going to rise above it, we're going to have a great day, I'm going to project this energy, and that's the energy that I'm going to draw to me. So there's so many of those laws out there, but
I
they're
love it.
awesome. They're awesome, and they work in conjunction with each other and
Mm.
reinforce one another. And there are, I used to have a coworker in human services, and we would get new families to work with because we worked in families' homes, and she would be, well, I can't work with them until next Tuesday after 10 a.m. because
Correct.
she was like every breath she drew was in timing with the planets.
Correct. Correct.
Um, and it just depends what suits you, how does it fit you, how does it work in your life. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of people that don't pay any attention to retrograde until they have an aha moment. Mine was a
Correct.
bracelet. But just
Exactly.
like I didn't get to see the lunar eclipse, I know it
Hmm.
happened.
Correct.
And
Correct.
and since nobody locally could see it, it also was not on my feed because any of those other planetary things that happened in the night that I don't get up for, I get to see them on my feed the next morning. Everyone took all the great
Correct.
pictures. So, it still happens whether I get to witness it or not.
Amazing. Thank you, Amanda. I think today was really cool, especially for all of us that don't, we heard of Mercury retrograde, but now we have a great understanding how to tap into that energy.
Yeah. All right. Look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thanks again, Andy. I appreciate you joining us.
See ya.
Bye.